Welcome to Legends and Lore, where history meets mystery. Before we step into tonight's mystery, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to the channel. It helps this channel grow. It tells YouTube that you enjoy these stories, and it lets me bring you even more tales of where history does meet mystery. If you enjoy storytelling, ancient legends, and the echoes of the past, this is the place for you. Now let's begin. There's something about a lighthouse at night. A solitary shape standing against the darkness, a tower of stone braced against the wildness of wind and sea. For sailors, its beam was safety, hope, a promise that land and life was near. But lighthouses hold more than light. They hold stories. Stories written in storms and silence, in the steady ticking of a keeper's clock, and sometimes in mysteries that refuse to fade. Tonight we begin our journey with one of the most famous disappearances in maritime history. A story of 3 experienced lighthouse keepers, a silent tower, and a question that has lasted more than a century. This is the lighthouse keepers who never left. Off the northwest coast of Scotland, far beyond the rolling green hills and quiet fishing towns, lie the Flannan Isles, a small, jagged cluster of rocks in the endless Atlantic. Even today, the islands feel untouched. No trees, no shelter, just grass, gulls, and cliffs that rise violently out of the ocean. The kind of cliffs shaped by centuries of storm. The kind of storms that don't just crash, they roar. The largest of the islands is Eilean Mor, meaning big island, though at only 43 acres, big is generous. The name Flannan comes from Saint Flannan, an Irish monk who supposedly built a small, lonely chapel there in the Middle Ages. No one lived on the islands. No one could live there. And so in 1895, when the Northern Lighthouse Board began constructing a lighthouse on Eilean Mor, it was considered one of the most difficult assignments in Britain. Everything had to be brought in by ship. Bricks, steel, coal, food, towels, even water. Storms could delay supply boats for weeks. But the lighthouse was needed because these waters were deadly. And so in December of 1899, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse was officially lit for the first time. Nobody knew that exactly 1 year later, it would become the center of a mystery, still debated to this day. Our 3 lighthouse keepers were by all accounts capable, responsible men. James Ducat, the principal keeper, 41 years old, quiet, reliable, stern but fair, with years of lighthouse experience behind him. Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, just 28, but determined. In earlier records, he had been fined for losing equipment during a storm. Some say the mistake weighed heavily on him. And Donald MacArthur, the occasional keeper, a man who filled in, who was rugged, experienced with the sea, known for a temper, but also known as dependable and strong. They followed a simple routine. 2 men worked, 1 man rested, and they rotated every few hours. Inside a lighthouse, life is measured by small, meaningful tasks. Trim the wick, tend the lantern, wind the mechanism, check the weather, record the day's events, listen to the wind, and of course, wait. Keepers spent weeks without seeing another face. No radio, no instant communication. Just the sea, the storms, and the light. And on December 15th, 1900, a passing ship, the Arctur, noted something strange. The Flannan Isles light was dark. And this was not unusual for a few hours during bad weather, but the light stayed dark for days. 2 weeks later, on December 26th, the relief vessel Hesperus arrived to rotate the crew and deliver supplies. But as the ship approached, Captain Harvey saw something that chilled him to the bone. No one came out to greet them. No flag was raised. No movement, just cold, silent bricks of the tower. The men blew the horn. They fired a flare. Nothing. Joseph Moore, the new keeper, volunteered to go ashore. He later said that walking up those lonely, storm-beaten steps felt like entering another world. At the landing platform, he noticed ropes lying in strange places, as if they had been dragged from storage. As he climbed the 160 stone steps toward the lighthouse, he saw no footprints, no sign of life. Inside, the door was unlocked. The clock had stopped. The kitchen table was set, but untouched. 2 yellow oilskin coats were missing. One coat still hung on its peg, meaning someone had gone outside in terrible weather without protection. Everything was neat. Everything was still, except for one thing. The keepers were gone. The lighthouse logbook held the most unsettling clues. Entries from December 12th and 13th described a severe storm, the worst the keepers had ever seen, and a cryptic line that simply said, "Prayers, something strange about them." That tells us whatever they were facing wasn't routine. But there was no storm recorded on the mainland. And then the final entry in the logbook simply read, "Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all." And after that, silence. Some research believe the logbook may have been dramatized later. Others believe the entries are real and perhaps reveal growing fear among the men. But no one can say for certain. And now we arrive at the heart of the mystery. What happened to the 3 keepers of Eilean Mor? Well, there are numerous theories. The first, a rogue wave theory. This is the most widely accepted explanation. A rogue wave is a massive wall of water, sometimes over 100 feet high, capable of striking without warning. The Flannan Isles were known for them. If one keeper went out to secure loose equipment and a wave struck, he could have been swept away. If the others rushed out to help, they may have suffered the same fate. Supporting this theory? Well, ropes found high on the rocks, damage near the landing platform, and 2 oilskins missing. But this theory can't explain everything. Why would all 3 leave the safety of the lighthouse? Why was one coat left behind? And why were there no signs of panic inside? The second theory, the storm theory. December of 1900 saw violent, unpredictable weather. Winds could rip doors from hinges. Waves could slam into rocks like cannon fire. Perhaps the men, fearing damage, left to secure the landing area. A gust, a slip, or a cascade of water might have taken them. Simple Tragic, but possible. Theory number 3, the fight theory. Some suggest a physical alteration occurred. Perhaps MacArthur's temper flared. But there's no evidence of a struggle, and the men were professionals, so this theory holds little weight, but still circulates. The next theory, the supernatural theory. You see, fishermen around these islands believed that they were inhabited by spirits. Old stories speak of shape-shifting beings, of voices in the wind, and islands where people vanished without a trace. Are these legends just entertainment, or echoes of ancient fears tied to very real dangers of the sea? We leave that answer up to you. And the 5th theory, the most interesting theory. Some researchers suggest this. One man stepped outside to check equipment. A sudden wave or gust forced him into danger. The second keeper rushed to help. A third followed, each man acting on instinct, one after the other, until all 3 were taken. No foul play, no supernatural interference, just human nature and the wild, unstoppable force of the Atlantic. The disappearance shook the lighthouse community. Keepers were known for their discipline, for their steadiness, their bravery. To lose 3 without any real explanation was unthinkable. Poets wrote about it, newspapers speculated, locals whispered, and over time the mystery grew into a legend. Some said the men were taken by the sea itself. Keepers claimed by the very element they guarded others from. Others said their spirits remained, still tending the light. Visitors to the island sometimes say they felt watched, not in a frightening way, but in a way that feels like responsibility, like duty, like 3 men still doing their jobs. Lighthouses sit at the edges of the world, between land and sea, between safety and danger, between the known and the unknown. Perhaps that's why their stories linger, because they stand where mysteries thrive. The truth of what happened on Ailon Moor may never be known, but the story of the Flannan Isles keepers lives on. It lives on in the crash of the Atlantic, in the whisper of the wind at the door, and in the faint echo of footsteps on a lighthouse stairway, long after the keepers themselves have disappeared. I'm Maureen Dobransky, and this is Legends and Lore, where history meets mystery. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. And if this story stirred your curiosity, please consider subscribing to the channel. It truly helps Legends and Lore continue to grow. And if you liked the video, please leave a comment or share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Every good bit of support helps keep these stories alive and helps me bring you more tales where history meets mystery. Until next time, keep your lantern lit and listen closely to what the past is trying to tell you.